Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Business Builders Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Stannis. You've probably heard that businesses, both small and large, are using email marketing to grow their revenue, reach new audiences, and better engage with their customers. But is email marketing really worth it? With more digital marketing options than ever before, including social media marketing, Google Ads, does email still hold its value when it comes to actually generating revenue? In today's episode, we'll talk about how you can supercharge your email marketing efforts and optimize the time you spend doing it. But first, let's meet today's guest, Nella DeCesar. Nella is the Managing Director for WBN Marketing right here in Naples, Florida. Nella, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Charles. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so before we get started, I did want to give a little shout out for those of you who missed our previous episode that we collaborated with Nella on. It was all about how to generate effective leads through your website. I definitely recommend checking that out if you haven't had the time to do so. So let's kind of, jump right in. Nella, I'm going to ask you kind of a really simple question. I think it will help segue us into this as we talk.
Sure.
Email marketing, is it worth the time investment?
It absolutely is if it's done right, and I say this a lot about different marketing vehicles, but there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. And, with everything that's kind of gone on in the world the last few years, email marketing has become one of those ways that is a direct hit in the mailbox, and which is a great thing. But of course, as we know, some of us can get hundreds of emails in our inbox. So how do we use email marketing to get folks' attention and to, gain new customers without being intrusive and, kind of, I guess, falling into that crowd of all the other emails? How do we get noticed, I think, is really, the question here. And, and there's a lot of things going out there with email fraud. So, people are also on high alert as to, what they're receiving in their inbox, what they're seeing, they're making that decision. Should I open this email or shouldn't I? So really, just to kind of start this ball rolling, email marketing needs to be a more personalized experience. Like if you're a company and you're still kind of emailing to the masses with the general information or, dare I say, in the news information, you're really kind of falling behind the times on this. That generic approach is really going to lower your open rate. And, again, people are very conscientious about what they're opening in their email today. So, if they receive a generic email, honestly, they're likely to delete it. So, our emails really have to be targeted. Our messaging has to be point on. We also have to segment for the different, audiences we have. For example, a lot of my clients sell, different line of products, and one line of products may have an audience, let's say, of an older crowd, when the other line of products is really a younger crowd. So if you're sending that blanket message to all of you're not going to get results. So we want to segment that out and start sending emails to the right audience with the right message and getting their attention. So that Well,
let me ask this. When you talk about, personalization, are we talking about simple things like, including their names and you had mentioned the lists. I think that's something you can also kind of dive a little bit deeper into of, where should someone start if, they don't have any lists? Let's just say, you had mentioned they have that, they have their whole, maybe they do have one list, and that list is like 5,000 contacts, and that's literally everyone in their business, right?
Oh, goodness. Right.
They've never done it before.
Right. So the first thing you want to do, first of all, kudos to anybody that has a list of 5,000 emails that they've been collecting, because good for you. Because a lot of people I talk to really have not done the best job of collecting email addresses from, customers or potential customers. So I would probably start there. If you're not currently doing that, start doing that, because, the best email list is going to be the ones that you collect from, current customers, potential customers. I get this question a lot about people asking, should I buy an email list? I highly recommend you don't just buy an email list. And here's why. We have canned spam laws, obviously, that dictate that, people need to give you permission to receive information. They need to opt in. So when you buy a list, you're essentially buying a list of strangers who may have opted in to get information about what you do, but they don't know your company from anybody else. So right off the bat, you're at a disadvantage because you're a stranger, and now you're going to buy an email list and spam people who don't otherwise know you. Not only is that not very lawful, but it's just really not the best way to nurture those relationships. The best thing to do is to start with, obviously your current customers, potential customers, build a list organically, because those people either already know you or they've heard of you, or perhaps you met them at a networking event. So, you've opened that door. So they're, and you'll give them a chance to opt out, of course, but you're starting a relationship. And this is what this is all about, right? Relationship building.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so I don't recommend ever buying a list. And a lot of the list vendors, sadly, out there, sell lists that are not fresh. So you could be buying a list with emails that are like 5 years old, and that's not going to do anybody any good. So definitely want to create that organic list. And the way you do that, and this kind of leads us right into the segmentation. So if you've got a current list of customers that already are working with you, and you've got their email addresses, that should be your first list. I mean, that right there is your low-hanging fruit. Those are the people who already work with you. They know how great your company is. They know how great your products are. You can be emailing them about referral programs and what's in it for them. So that's one segment right there. And it's really easy to build that list. You either already have it in your database, or you already know these folks, and you can call them and say, hey, we're going to be sending out some valuable information or valuable offers. Can we put you on our email list? I guarantee you 9 out of 10 times they'll say yes. And then, of course, if they decide they don't want to receive the email, they can always opt out. And then the second part of building a list are, potential customers. So these are the customers that you're going to meet at networking events, maybe through other customers, referrals, things like that. So those are the people that you want to try and get to be customers. So those people are going to have a completely different message, right, than the people that already know you. So those people will be segmented in another list. And those are the people where you want to try and give them, your best offer possible. You definitely want to give them an incentive to start working with you or to use your company or whatever else. So, that's another list. Okay. And you can, so basically, if you've got that list of 5,000 that we're talking about, start grouping those people into different buckets. So, you could even group them. Here's what I've done here for us is I will take those, that big major list, and I'll group them into, kind of my A, B, C clients. So A clients might be people that we currently work with, that we work with all the time. B clients might be people that we work with, but maybe they don't purchase a lot of, services from us right now, but have the potential to benefit from our services. So they might get a different message. So I don't know, are we starting to get the gist of this? We want to take that big list of 5,000 and put them into different audience groups, because a lot of those people are going to get different messages. So I would start there for sure.
Yeah, and I know, using us as an experience, once we realized that it was okay to not send a message to everyone, I think that's the hurdle to get over, right?
That's right.
People are afraid, well, if I segment this list down from, 5,000, we'll use that number, right, to 1,000, yeah. I think everyone feels like they're missing a huge portion of their
right.
Of their
and you know what? I'm here. That's a really great point. I'm glad you're bringing that up, because I'm here to tell everybody listening to this podcast right now, that is simply not the case. As long as I've been doing marketing for 28 years, our mode of deliveries have changed over the years. We've gone from, paper essentially to digital to, the marketing world has changed. But here's one thing that doesn't change, is that targeted message and getting in front of people and gaining that trust and credibility. So that really has not changed. So we still want a targeted approach, no matter what medium you're using, whether it's direct mail, whether it's email marketing, whether it's your website, you want to target that audience, and the different segments will help us narrow the targeting down. So essentially, you're not sending less emails, you're sending better emails that are more relevant and contextual to the audience. So when we do that, and history throughout the ages of marketing and hard cold data has told us that when we segment and we target with relevant information to the different groups, we have a better open rate, and we have more of a chance of converting those recipients into actual business, into new customers. So we're not really sending less emails. We're just grouping people into smaller, more, in my opinion, more manageable groups. And we're sending them more contextual information, more relevant information. That's going to increase our open rate. That's going to increase our conversion as well. So, that mindset of, oh, we're sending less emails, that's just simply not true. You got to get that out of your head.
Yeah, well, no, that's definitely great to hear.
Targeted is always best.
Yeah. And once you get past that point, like I said,
right,
it just opens up so many more options, and you'd be
it sure does.
surprised.
It sure
To
does.
the point of like, once I can get it segment, how engaged you can actually get that group.
That's right. And there's some really simple things you can do to target your emails that don't take, a lot of heavy duty technical stuff, but just to kind of get everybody even further excited. There's a lot of things happening now and probably going forward, with artificial intelligence, otherwise known as AI, for those who don't know, if you see AI, the artificial intelligence is coming out there to where we can now segment through like the website. So like if like a lot of people do this, like if somebody hits a website, you might see, a banner ad or something after that. Well, now they're working on some technology to where you can receive an email just from going to a website and putting in some minor information, like, just shoot, all kinds of artificial intelligence things that are just, interactive emails is another thing that I've been reading about that's coming out. So it's really getting high level. Whereas, we might have thought a while back that email marketing might have been kind of, something that wasn't working as good as it used to, just because of, the mass email marketing. But technology is coming out for us to even further target using different applications like websites, search engines, and all kinds of other stuff. So that's pretty exciting. But there are some very simple things, like you don't need to go out and spend thousands of dollars on, fancy technology right now, unless of course you want to. It's always exciting, but there's a lot of simple things we can do as well. So to start you on that path, and I can go through that if you'd like to. We kind of talked about some of them, like never buy an email list, build a healthy one, through innovative campaigns and compelling offers, obviously. But another thing, review that email list every 6 to 12 months and remove the ones that don't open emails, because for whatever reason that may be, if they're not opening them, it's costing you money to send those emails to those folks.
Right.
And if they haven't opened your emails in 3 to 6 months, get rid of them, just take them off.
That's a great point. So in your eyes, should someone almost be doing a health check every month, 2 months?
Every 6 months, I like to say. Yeah. I mean, if you're like us, where, we have a steady stream of new clients coming into our firm, so we add them, and, every 6 months, I typically like to go through and resegment and do that. But, for some companies that, like, for example, e-commerce companies that sell products every single day online or getting new customers, at breakneck speed, for them, I would absolutely advise reviewing that email list every 3 months, just depending on how fast that, customer turnover is. But yeah, we definitely at least every 6 months and, go through and remove that. And then, and there's also email platforms out there that block emails, and, it's hard, like banks and financial institutions. We have a hard time, like if you're using Constant Contact or MailChimp, you're going to have a hard time getting through that firewall. And that's just kind of, a fact of life. But if you contact that person, they might be able to whitelist, your emails coming in or some other way, or a Gmail, or but you definitely want to go through that list, because you could be spending money sending, emails to people who either aren't interested or aren't able to receive the email. So, just focus on the people that actually want your information and want to receive it.
Yeah. And so in that sense, are we just kind of removing them from a certain lists and just kind of letting them live without being segmented, and just that way, we can maybe look at them in
Yeah.
the future to
I
try to
mean, you could do it
re-engage
a
them?
couple different, you could do it a couple different ways. What I do, like, we use Constant Contact, and it's pretty good, and they have really good reporting. So I'm kind of a fan of them, and then a couple other platforms as well. But what I like to do is, because I know within Constant Contact and a lot of other platforms, you have to pay to house emails in there. So I typically take them out altogether, so I don't have to pay to have that contact in there. And then I just have a kind of a suppression list that I kind of keep updated in a file, an Excel file. And that tells me that, yes, this person once was inside of my database, but for some reason they weren't responding to emails, so I took them out. So what that does is that keeps record of what I have suppressed out in case somebody else wants to, resubscribe, which they can do. But it also alleviates me from having to pay to have that contact in there. And we're not sending them emails right now anyway. So I don't want to pay to house that contact. I'd rather just put it on a suppression list for right now. And that's how I've done it. But yeah, sure. I mean, if you're okay with paying for that, I think, like, for example, Constant Contact, 100 to 500 contacts is a price level, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, so essentially, you're kind of in control of your budget. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? Because you can then say, okay, I know I'm not going to engage these people. Let me take them off of my platform so I don't incur those costs. And then I'll keep them over here, and then maybe I can revisit them and try to engage them in the future.
Right. And then what I've done too is, like, maybe once every 6 months or sometimes once a year, just depends on who's on that suppressed list. I might actually just, put them in a segregated list in constant contact, and then send them an email and say, hey, we haven't heard from you in 6 months to a year. Would you like, and then also include the resubscribe field in there as well, so they can resubscribe back into your database. That's the best case scenario.
So it's almost like a win back campaign.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another segment. So when you're ready to hit those folks up, then you can just put them right back into a list. And now that is your, like you just said, your campaign to hopefully win some folks back. But, at some point, obviously, if people are, people change emails all the time. That's another thing I see. Somebody might update their email address and maybe not tell you, and you're sending emails out and it's going nowhere. Yeah. We might reach out to them and say, hey, we noticed that your email address has changed. You're not getting our emails. Would you like to, update your email to get our information? So that's another good way to manage that as well. It does take a little time to manage it, but it's worth it, because while you're doing all this segmentation and all of this, personalized messaging, you're increasing your conversion. You're increasing your chances of getting people back in or getting new customers. Something that we like to do is we also send out emails to current people with our referral program. So I usually send a quarterly email and remind people, hey, here's our referral program. You can get money off your services if you refer people to us. And it's really funny because, people forget. They have so much stuff going on, and you might think that, oh, they don't care, but they really do. And I always find out when I send that email out once a quarter, no doubt, I literally get like 4 people back who are like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. I need to talk to you about so-and-so. I wanted to refer them over to you. So it's like an immediate shot in the arm. And keeping top of mind is really another way to, increase your conversions as well. And if you don't have a referral program with your current customers, I highly recommend you put one together, because that is like low hanging fruit. That is like shooting fish in a barrel, for lack of a better phrase. But like I said earlier, your current clients already know how great you are. So if you put a referral program in front of them and remind them once a quarter via email, that's money off for their services. So they're like, oh, wow, I forgot about this. So, that's another tactic that we use here that I find is very effective. But, so what we don't want to do, just to kind of recap, we don't want to send out broad messages. And the other thing along the same lines that I want to mention is the frequency in which we send these emails out. If you're when you're doing the narrow down targeted message and using segmented lists, you have a lot more freedom to send emails more often that are going to be well received and opened. But if you're sending the mass email out and you're sending it out, once a month to the masses with, just generic broad content, you are not going to get anything. Stop doing that. So you don't want to keep pelting these people with, information that they don't even care about. That is the quickest way to get somebody to opt out of your campaign. Because they're like, I get emails from people. I'll tell you what, some places send me emails that it's just the same old, same old. There's nothing engaging in the subject line for me to even want to open the email. And I've gotten to the point where I just start deleting them upon seeing the subject line because I already know what's going to be in there.
Yeah. And that's never good.
Please don't do that. Yeah. And then that's really bad because, I end up opting out. So I'm never, now I've opted out and they've lost me forever. It's really easy to lose people forever on email. So again, that targeting segmentation is so important. And it's going to improve your results. I guarantee you're going to have better results from doing that.
Awesome. And so to kind of recap on what you had just mentioned, and it's a really broad question, and I would assume this is determined obviously by industry and things like that, but you had mentioned the frequency. So something I always hear from people is like, well, how much is too much? How much is too little? So should people be really paying attention to that and see like what's working for them and what's not working for them? And I guess the big thing too is if it's not working, or if they notice it's having a negative impact, they need to act upon it, correct?
Absolutely. Yes, is the answer to everything you just mentioned. When things aren't working, fix them, because the last thing you want to do is continue to do something, because I hear this from a lot of people. Oh, we sent out some emails for 6 months and sent out our news once a month and never really got any responses. So we quit doing it. I mean, that's even worse, So again, having the targeted email is going to give you a lot of freedom to decide how often you should send these emails out. Like, for example, the example I mentioned before about our referral program, I send that out once a quarter and it does the trick. I wouldn't want to send that out every week because it's going to become intrusive about, people don't have time to get that message every week, but it's effective when we send it out once a quarter to remind people, and people appreciate that. So we kind of found that magic frequency there for that particular, segment. But, you never want to pelt somebody incessantly with emails. You know what I'm saying? Because think about it. People have hundreds of emails, they want to read what's interesting and relevant to them. And if you start doing that to the point where, like I have some companies that send me emails every week, I literally just opt out because I just, an option wasn't given to me to decide how frequently I wanted to receive these messages. So they're just sending it, every week or, every day, dare I say, and nobody has time to do that every day. Right. So again, making these targeted will help you understand the frequency. And sometimes you have to do a little testing. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not always a clear answer. And I'll give you an example. I have a nonprofit client where, the donors are kind of on the older side. And we were doing some emails and they have a very good open rate. And there was some debate on what time of day to send these emails out. Some said, oh no, we need to send it really, really early because we've got older people who are opening these emails. And then, other folks were saying, no, 9-10 o'clock in the morning is fine. And I said, well, let's do some A/B testing. So we did. And the result, and we did it like 3 times to make sure it wasn't some weird anomaly that we were seeing. But lo and behold, we had better open rates for this particular crowd of donors when we, believe it or not, true story, sent these emails out at 5:30 in the morning. I kid you not. We had like 80% open rate between like 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. So I said, wow, that is mind blowing. Let's do it a couple more times to make sure this isn't just some strange anomaly. And lo and behold, we did it a couple more times. And now that is kind of how we roll with that particular client. We send these emails out earlier in the morning because when we were sending them out later in the day, we were getting less of an open rate. So, those are things that you find out, through testing. So if you have to do a little bit of testing just to see the frequency or the time of day, by all means do that. I've also done some testing by, talking to some of my clients, like I'll talk to like maybe 5 or 6 of my clients and make them like a focus group. And this really works. If you can, find 5 to 6 of your best clients or 10, depending on what your industry is, and make them a focus group and, send them emails, send them test emails and let them, give you feedback on how they would respond and their interpretation and, give them a free gift card or something. There's so many different ways to test, but it is super important because we don't always know the answers to like how frequent, I would have never thought that this audience would be giving an 80% open rate at 6:30 in the morning. I never in my wildest dreams, but they did. And it's a true story. So testing and, it's hard for me to give a concrete answer on frequency. I mean, obviously we don't want to bombard people with useless information, but if you're doing the segmenting and you're doing the targeting, you can test that and see what's going to give you the best result.
Yeah. And I also think, you had said it, I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said, give them the option, right? So if you're able to ask them, hey, do you want to get this every week, every month, every day, whatever it is, right? Like what works for you? And, your takeaway really is utilize your audience and let them be the ones that allow you to make the decisions, collect that data, right?
Absolutely. Give them flexibility. Everybody loves options. And, I wish that I could see that more in campaigns like, hey, we're sorry to see you go. Would you like to have your email only once a month now instead of once a week? Like if I saw that, and I see it once in a while, it's a great technology, but I don't see it enough. And if I saw that, I'd probably be more apt to stay with a choice of a lesser delivery frequency than, just getting it once a week and not given that option and then just opting out altogether and then you lose me forever.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Giving
and it's
them
funny because obviously our listeners, they can't see us right now, they can hear us, but I literally wrote down, give them the option. I circled it, I underlined it, I started. That's the takeaway, right? So definitely don't miss advantage, take advantage of that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's kind of shift a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the email itself. Hopefully they've now segmented their email, they've done testing, they've listened to their customers. I want to talk a little bit about best practices for actually creating the email. So things subject lines, and a big thing now obviously is, make sure it's designed well for mobile. And then the big engagement thing that seems to be exploding, it's not new, it's been happening for a while now, is video content, right?
Yeah, all of those things are important. Video content, absolutely. We have hard cold data that says video content engages users more and will get them, to look at your email for sure. I'll tell you what, a big thing is the subject line. Okay, that is going to make or break whether somebody's going to open that email or not. And a lot of people don't realize this, but sometimes when you put punctuation in subject lines like exclamation points or commas, a lot of email platforms look at that as spammy and may not deliver the email because there's an exclamation point in the subject line. So be really careful with, and not all email platforms, some of the really bigger ones have a way to get around that. But if you're just a small business, you're using Constant Contact or MailChimp, I do know we want to kind of, maybe watch the punctuation, because especially like I see emails that have like 18 exclamation points at the end of a subject line. Well, I'm here to tell you, you never ever need more than 1 exclamation point in any copy. I'm just going to throw that out there. But especially with email subject lines, you don't need 18 exclamation points, and maybe not even 1. Okay. What's really going to grab somebody is, an offer or, just some kind of direct statement, like, here's here's this week's, online offer for your favorite product, especially for somebody that's bought from you already. So you kind of have to get a little creative with that subject line to get somebody to open the email. And, this is a common practice among recipients. Like, for example, I'll go through my emails, and if the subject line is just kind of like vanilla and broad, and or dare I say, I don't even know what the subject line means, I'm
Right.
just going to hit delete.
Yeah.
So you've got one shot, literally, you've got 2 seconds for somebody to look at that subject line and want to open your email. So to me, that is probably the most important part of the structure of the email, is that subject line.
So should we kind of follow what we talked about and say, if we're going to do A/B testing, the subject line should be something that we're testing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it depends on your audience. And we've already talked about the segmentation. So, potential customers versus, current customers are going to have probably very different subject lines. So yes, absolutely. Testing is always going to, send you down the right path with that. But, and again, getting creative with those subject lines and piquing somebody's interest, especially somebody, a potential customer that doesn't really know you that well, that is paramount. So super important part of the email. And then, getting into the content of the email. I've done a lot of testing on the content of email, and I can tell you, video content is great, but other than that, short and sweet and to the point really tends to get better results than the email. Like, if I have to scroll through 2 or more paragraphs to see what you're talking about, I'm done. Right.
Yeah.
And the days of putting the entire article in the email to scroll down 100 pages, that's done. I still see people doing that, believe it or not. We want to use links in our email. Like, a nice thing to do is, post an article on your news or your blog on your website, put 3 lines in with a link to read more. And then that person, again, we talk about choices, giving choices. I can choose to click on that link and read the entire article, or I don't have to scroll down and just get out of, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. Well, then I guess the benefit of that too is now we've taken them to our website, right?
Right, exactly.
Which is a win for us.
You hit the nail on the head. That's a twofold benefit right there. You've sent them to go to your website. That is the best case scenario. You don't want them to read the whole article in the email. That's a waste of everyone's time. Give them 2 or 3 sentences, read more, send them to the website. And then while they're at the website, not only can they finish reading the article, but they can look and see what you have to offer and get to know you. It's a beautiful way to do it. We don't want people scrolling through emails. We want it short and sweet and succinct, and those links provide that. And then of course it brings people to the website, which is even better. Video is engaging. So obviously video content, it just, the content has to be relevant. Like, if you're that company that's still sending out the monthly email about in the news and our employee of the month, and, all that's nice, but I have to be really honest with you. People are asking themselves, what's in it for me? Like, that's great that your employee of the month is so-and-so, and congratulations, but this has nothing to do with me as your customer. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. I just have to tell you that. A lot of people, they just don't care, about those kinds of things. They want to know what's in it for them. So, if I have the choice of opening an email that says, oh, our quarterly news in the news at ABC company, or I have the option of opening another email that says, here's a coupon for your favorite product at ABC company, guess which one I'm going to open, right?
Yep. Pretty easy.
So, exactly. So yes, the content is important. It must be relevant and it must be targeted. Otherwise, why bother, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and hey, listen, we've all learned this lesson the hard way. I mean, 7 years ago, we were doing that, sending out the quarterly emails. And then I looked at this and I was just like, why are we doing this? As I'm watching the open rate steadily decline, right? I'm like, why are we doing this? So to be really honest with you, the emails that I send to my clients, if I don't have something targeted to say, or an offer or something that's interesting or compelling to them, I don't send it. because there's just no point. So just to kind of recap, like, we send our quarterly reminders about referral programs. That's good information because it provides people discounts. We also do a lot in terms of website security and things like that, as you know. So whenever we have security updates or any like world news about security, that seems to be a very hot topic for people. People like being in that loop. So we send that, but I don't send them, twice a month. I send them only when it's, relevant and breaking news, that sort of thing.
Awesome.
And our open rate has improved immensely because of that. So, just because, you have email doesn't mean you just want to, blanket with these broad content. You want to definitely make it worth their while.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, Nella, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic insight. I definitely want to give our viewers the option, if they have any more questions, if they want to connect with you, if they want to reach out, what's the best way to do so?
Well, you can reach me by going to WBN-marketing.com. You can fill out a contact form, or you can call me directly at my direct number, which is 239-919-0933, or you can just shoot me an email at nella@WBN-marketing.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nella.
You bet. Have a great day, everyone.
If you enjoyed listening to this episode, make sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss another show. Join other professionals looking to grow their business with Southwest Florida Inc. at SWFLinc.com and sign up for a free membership today. Thanks so much for listening to Business Builders. We'll see you next time.